want to begin this conversation this morning with Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, who is the State Commissioner in Lagos for the Environment and Water Resources. He's here with us in the studio. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
By the way, I saw, how did you navigate the traffic to get here this morning?
I'm a Lagos boy.
Okay. I guess that explains it.
But yes. I will never take one way. I will never take
no, I have an...
I had to go through Magodo, then Isheri,
okay,
out around Bega, and then just had to contend with the narrow...
I will not ask whether or not you had to flash your ID card. Don't even answer that question. I see your This is Lagos sign. You also just recently put it, This is Lagos. Everybody puts welcome to anywhere. Are you putting...
This is Lagos.
You're not welcome to Lagos, just to announce that
this is Lagos. You
know. By the way, let me begin with something that's a little tricky. On your way here, after Kara Bridge, there is that outset on the right side of the road. Immediately after Kara Bridge, after World Oil, there is this new development of bus stops and all of those things,
okay, yes,
happening right there. To be honest, not many people know the difference between Lagos and Ogun State at that point. What kind of partnership is going on for that one? That's one. Secondly, the median between when you leave our studio now, you have to make that U-turn. When it rains, it's like a swimming pool right there, that median between that roundabout and Kara Bridge. What kind of partnership is going on right there to ensure that that place is cleaned up from time to time?
Thank you very much, Ayo. Lagos have just two neighbors. Ogun is our neighbor as a state, and then to the south we have the Atlantic, where we share 186 kilometers of our southern boundary with the Atlantic. Then we have Ogun State to the north of Lagos. So we have no choice but to have and continue to have collaboration with Ogun State. And it cuts across every facet of what we do. There are areas in Lagos where you won't even know you've entered Ogun, around this Bega, Abiodun axis. Our main water source in Lagos, Iju, Adiyan 1 and 2, actually sharing border, and some of them are in Ogun State. We have to take our raw water from the Ogun River. The pipes have to run through the Ogun State territory, where they have to give us a right of way to lay the pipe for about 8 kilometers into the Ogun River, where we can get our raw water intake for our ADO Phase 2 Water Works project that is ongoing. This tells you how we relate with Ogun State. From the Epe Mojoda end, you find out there is a collaboration also where there's a toll plaza coming from Ijebu-Ode, Iyemuji into Epe through Mojoda. You won't even know there's a difference. So that tells you how interwoven we are with Ogun State. From the Ikorodu end, you have to go through Ogijo. From Ikorodu, you enter Ogijo, then the Shagam, through that axis. From the Itonki end too, you have to go through Agbowa, Itonki Junction. You go straight into Ijebu, you turn right into K2, Molajoye, Temu, into Epe. So Ogun is just around us. So on this Kara side of it, we are also collaborating to work together. Thankfully, the Honorable Commissioner for the Environment in Ogun State, Mr. Ola Oresanya, is somebody I know very well. We relate and we discuss common issues. The boundary at this point where people choose to do open defecation, for instance, we can't come into Ogun to enforce. A lot of things allow us, but we've told them, we've discussed with them extensively, this is what we are doing. Kindly help us just take it off from the other side of it. And they are doing that. When there was a lead poison at around Ogijo, that became an international kind of discourse. Thankfully, we also have to collaborate because whatever we are doing, we have to be in sync with them. And Mr. Oresanya and his team went full blast into it. And
I do understand that collaboration. I'm just wondering how impactful it is, because we all know that On the one hand, is these activities that you're talking about, the negligence or the failure of which the vulnerabilities to illnesses, to infectious diseases are rampant.
Ayo, we are collaborating. Maybe the approach is totally different.
Okay.
That's the only way I can situate the answer.
All right, let's go specifically to Lagos now. The big news for now is the return of the environmental sanitation. And to be honest, I wondered why there's such a furore about it, because the Thursday environmental sanitation never ended at the markets. But yet people still go to the markets and they still wonder, how come things are still the way they are. Go to Mile 12 market, go to Imbu market, any of these markets. Even I think there's another market at Makoko and the rest of them, and they're still, people still wonder how. So how is this going to be different this time around? What's it going to bring to Lagos?
Now, what we chose to do differently after the hiatus for about almost 10 years is to come back and bring back a culture, a community participatory culture with respect to waste, with respect to the environment. People forget that waste management is a culture itself. How you treat your environment is a culture. And that culture you must build positively for it to cut across board. You can flash back to prior to when we stopped this monthly environmental sanitation. You don't have to do so much when you wake up that last Saturday, but you have to do something around your neighborhood. People come out, the communities come out, they participate, they clean up, and we cut. The operative word here is the community participation and the orientation that we must do something to take care of this environment. 10 years down the road, I've heard people say, oh, why do we have to? When something becomes an existential challenge, you also need to be adaptable as a human to address it. It took us over a year of consultation, engagement, to be sure this is the path to go and the path to tread. And thankfully, we had to do it and bring it back. What has changed? Because of the legal issues in the past, I also have a legal background. The state does have a learned attorney general, a senior advocate for that matter. We reviewed the cases that went to court then. The one by the learned senior advocate now, Bolu Adegboruwa, and the one by this woman, is it Okon? Both, interestingly, we're talking about the powers to introduce environmental by the state government. But what we've done is to creatively say we are not infringing on anybody's fundamental rights. We are trying to build a culture through the states. And that culture means let there be a civic responsibility from each and every one of us with respect to how we take care of our environment. That is our common patrimony, by the way. It's our own heritage. And we can't see it go to the dogs.
So we all know, every Lagosian knows that it's to use, I think one of the words used, existential threat.
Yes.
All over the city. But we didn't get here in one day.
True.
And over the past 10 years, it would seem like the culture then was not even cultivated by the people. And even though there were restrictions of movements at the time to ensure the enforcement, now we hear that there is no restriction of movement. So how will that culture be cultivated by the people when there is no restriction of movement?
The restriction,
it's like you're saying it's voluntary.
The restriction is not what makes you imbibe a culture. We have to separate it here. The approach and the advocacy is sit back and look at your environment yourself. We have a strategy in place we won't disclose here, but we've engaged enough to know there are ways to go about it. You said it yourself. We've not stopped the environmental sanitation in our markets. Every Thursday, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 a.m., all our markets statewide, there are no activities. How were they able to do it? There's a strategy behind it. So we have a strategy to put in place, and we've already put it in place to see how we can implement this without taking away anybody's rights, fundamental or otherwise. Ayo, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. Let me even add to it, lunch, dinner, late meals, brunch, if you are not careful. So if we know we have a cultural issue here, we have a people issue here, Lagos has also grown exponentially within the past 10 years in population. People coming with their own mindset, with their own ways. I want to do my thing this is where I'm coming from. But what is the culture they've met on ground with respect to the environment? So now it's for us to sit back and say, no, we can't go on this trajectory any longer. This state, we can't allow it go this way. Let us build a culture. And that's what we want to do. Look, people that are saying, why are they doing this? They travel. Most of them do. Why is it that everywhere you go, for instance in the UK, you know, on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, you have to bring out your waste baskets. You must bring out your waste basket around midnight. Because you know by 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., they are coming to cut them away. They built that culture. They didn't get there overnight. In Singapore, you can't chew a gum and throw it out. You can't. It's an offense. And there are consequences. They built that culture. They didn't get there overnight. So why can't we build a culture of cleanliness? If the two main religions in this country, the Islamic and the Christian, we preach cleanliness is so next to godliness. And we want to be godly. Why can't we be clean?
Okay. I think Markwe also will have a question or two.
Okay.
Because she still has her interest very strongly in Lagos.
She's a Lagosian. She has no choice.
Go ahead, Markwe.
Indeed, Mr. Wahab, it does happen that this message you're preaching now is most apt for the season that we're in. Eid al-Fitr being marked by Muslims, and of course Christians are still in the season of Lent. And one of the things they try to do is purify their hearts. You're saying purify the environment as well. I'm just a little curious as to whether, you know, how well this gospel of cleanliness is sinking in, because it does appear that there are so many parts that need to move to ensure that you know, the Lagos state government is successful in this campaign, that we are all successful, because whether or not we like it, we're all desirous of a clean environment. We appreciate a clean environment, but the question is whether we have what it takes, whether we really want to put in the work it takes to be able to achieve that, whether we're educating people enough as to the harms of this. Let me give you an instance. In 2024, the Lagos state government banned styrofoam. And it came, you know, to all, I think it was received very differently. Some people applauded. In fact, a lot of people applauded, especially in the medical sector, in the environment sector. But then the people were wondering, what were the alternatives? What are we going to have in place of styrofoams? They had come to fill a certain need. And then, of course, the environment is fluid. Whatever happens, if Ogun State did not ban styrofoams, whatever happens in Ogun State will still end up affecting Lagos. But then there were questions as to how was Lagos going to police that? It was one thing to put in the ban or put the ban in place, but then how do you then make sure that people are actually obeying what has been done? So many questions I have raised in one inadvertently. First, how are you collaborating with other states, especially those that neighbor your state when you have things like this? And is this awareness, you know, sufficient with security agencies that this would also fall under the purview? That when people throw dirt out of the window or, you know, are just doing things that are against the environment, they should also have a duty to checkmate those people. What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you very much, Maope. Let me start with the last question you asked. When we banned styrofoam 2 years ago, we didn't ban whimsically. We banned based on a report we commissioned as a state. We commissioned UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, and then UN Habitat. And they submitted a report to us that was very damning with respect to styrofoam and single-use plastics. And then we went to the National Council on the Environment, a national body that comprised 36 states of the Federation, Abuja, and then the federal government. This became a topical issue, and then there was a position that was taken. And the position was states should implement the ban. For 2 years, we were engaging the manufacturers, we were engaging the stakeholders. And when I resumed in September 2023, I inherited the report from my predecessor, who is my Egbon, Mr. Tunji Bello. And we reviewed it. And we know right there and then, based on our own existential issues too, with respect to how styrophones, for instance, clog our drainage ways, blocks our drainage paths, disturbs the storm water from discharging easily to the discharging points, that we have to take action. So we activated, we engaged all the stakeholders, and we had to ban. When we banned, there were a lot of use and cry. But today, looking back, this was one of the best decisions we took as a state. And we didn't ban at once. We banned styrofoam for exigency, emergency reasons, health reasons, environmental reasons. And then we left the window for the manufacturers, the producers, the stakeholders to transit for 18 months with respect to the single-use plastics. And after 18 months, we also banned single-use plastics. Are we there 100%? Maope, I will tell you no. For styrofoam, we've accomplished 85%, 88% compliance in the state. For single-use plastic, we're around 70+%, which for me is successful because the manufacturers in the state have transited within the 18 months to the alternatives they have to use, thankfully. And other states are also taking steps now to do the same. I can't help them implement it. We have to keep engaging them. That's with respect to that. Now, let's come to the big elephant in the room, the environmental sanitation and the reintroduction. Maope, when you have a state that has grown exponentially, and then you have issues that are bordering on human elements, this is why I call it human elements in different parts, you have to keep engaging with advocacy, messaging. We are not going to stop that. However, after a year of engagement and advocacy, we believe it's time for us to take the plunge and reintroduce the environmental sanitation. In the course of reintroduction also, the engagement with the CDAs, the CDCs, the market unions, the NURTWs, the RTIN, all the stakeholders, we are still engaging them. I'm here today, it's part of the advocacy, the part of the messaging that we are giving out to Lagosians, that look, we need to do this for these reasons. We also choose not to ban or restrict movements for reasons. We could have gone on appeal to the Supreme Court with respect to one of the cases, but we said no. Lagos has grown. Lagos is growing commercially. It's an economic nerve. There are ways we have to be creative to put this in place. And putting it in place also requires you to allow people build consensus from the homes to the towns or to the community halls, and that is what we are doing with this. On our part as a government...
Yeah, but Honorable Commissioner, I think the question for me, yes, you're answering it, which is the elephant in the room there. I think the big one for me is enforcement. You've talked about how you are not going to restrict movement. However, there are certain things that you're putting in place, such as the ban. You've said you've measured it. You're at 85% compliance. I don't know how you've measured that. In terms of the use, I don't live in Lagos anymore, but I know I still visit. I've not been able to say I'm looking out for styrofoams, but I still see single-use plastic. Unless, of course, all the PET bottles that we see in our drainages do not qualify as that. But, you know, there are questions as to how do you enforce. One of the things that you would like to see is people finishing with their waste and not throwing it out. You mentioned Singapore, how it is a crime for you to throw chewing gum out. That's because there will be people who will hold you responsible. There will be people who are policing that aspect of the culture. How do we intend to police that in Lagos?
Thank you very much, Maope. Let me take you on a bit on the single-use plastics and styrofoam. Maope, when I say 75%, because we have people in the markets statewide on a daily basis, and they're filing their reports for styrofoam, for single-use plastics, And I don't know. I know you know more in Lagos, but you must have your feedbacks. The last time you must have found a PEP bottle on the road must have been a while back, because people sell them now and they make money off them because they are recyclables. Let's put that aside. Now, Maope, there are different ways to approach a market. That's the way we want to approach the issue of the environmental sanitation. If you put punitive measures ahead of the advocacy and the engagement, people may end up doing the environmental, but they will not be doing it out of conviction. And that's what we want to avoid. We could as well go to the House of Assembly and pass a law to achieve this, but we will not do that. We believe, as responsible citizens in these states, we can engage in a civil manner. We can engage to do the right thing. It's about the advocacy and the messaging. And then we take stock. We take stock. What we've done, the engagement with the stakeholders, the critical stakeholders, have shown us that we can achieve our goal without being punitive in our approach. And time will tell.
Let's take you up on the issue of the weather. I mean, we're really hoping that you succeed, because if Lagos succeeds, there will be no reason why any other state in this country will not succeed in keeping its environment clean. And to be very honest, we really wish you all the very best in this, and we're hoping that you are able to secure the cooperation of the residents of Lagos to achieve a cleaner Lagos. But let's quickly take you up on the issue of flooding, which is very closely related. You briefed the media yesterday on the projection released by, or the predictions released by NIMET, which is the meteorological agency. And it does appear that there will be quite some rain in Lagos. There's going to be an early onset of rain from what it is that you told the media yesterday. What are you hoping will be the results in this coming rainy season? What are some of the metrics by which you hope to, you would say this was a good rainy season, where maybe Lagos wasn't flooded, or if it's flooded, maybe it will be flash floods? What are some of the metrics that you'll be looking at to say that we had adequate preparations for the onset of this year's rains?
Let me start by saying we've taken steps, and we've taken it in a different way, because you can't do something the same way and you expect a different result. In the past 1.5 or 2 years now, we've ensured that the emergency flood abatement gang in the ministry works 24 hours of the day, 7 days of the week, and all year round. We don't wait for the rainy season before we put them to task. So every day of the week, Monday through to Sunday, they go out there statewide to be desilting all the systems and the drainage paths statewide. And that gives us comfort. The mantra in the ministry is, if EFAG, that's the flood abatement gang, gets it right, 50% of the flooding challenges in the state, we have taken care of it. Now, the second step is, 2 years ago, we also took steps to go use the technology of AI to set up early warning signs across the states, where we have AI technology installed at our river level to help us gauge how the water level, the tidal level is. We've done that statewide, and we get reports every second. That gives us comfort to tell the citizens that, look, at this point, the water level is increasing. You may have to evacuate from your low line. Thirdly, in 2.5 years, Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu had also taken very proactive steps to ensure that we ramp up the capacity for the state with respect to giving the state resilient drainage infrastructure, which had been done in a very measurable way, statewide. Fourthly, we've ensured, without caring whose ox is gored, that people that chose to flagrantly build on our floodplains, people that built on our wetlands, we've removed those contraventions, and we've put in place the proper infrastructure and alignment for our own discharging points. And I'll give you examples. We did it at Maryland. And Maryland is very instructive in the sense that as far back as 1974, if I may recall, the then Milad of Lagos, military administrator, General Mobolaji Johnson, did gazette the Systems 1, Odoyalaro, to protect that alignment because it's the most critical to discharge all of Lagos mainland into the Lagos Lagoon. What we found out a few years ago is that most of the people around the Systems 1 have gone to build on the alignment. And then you have areas that never used to flood. We're now experiencing flooding. So we have to painfully remove those contraventions and fix back the alignment, put in place the resilient infrastructure. Yes. We've done this around Lasu, Fraklas. We have done this around the Lekki corridor. We've done this around the Kota River corridor. We're doing this statewide, Ikorodu and everywhere. And lastly, we have a very strong collaboration with the Ogun-Osun River Basin Authority. The Ogun-Osun River Basin Authority takes care of the discharge of water from the Oyon Dam. And because of the location of Lagos, we are at the tail end of the tributary to discharge into the Atlantic. Whenever they release the water from Oyon Dam, people around the Isheri corridor here, people around the Agility, people around Majidun, people around Agboiketu, they always have pains. But what we've done differently is we've enhanced our collaboration with the Ogun-Osun River Basin Authority, and they give us enough notice of when it's time to discharge water from the Oyon Dam. And then we disseminate the information to Lagos citizens. But by and large, I'll say this and say it clearly. We've experienced lesser flooding in the past 2.5 years based on these reasons. But we can't run away from flash flooding as a state. And you know why. We are a coastal state. A coastal state that is bounded by the Atlantic on the south, and then 25% of our state land mass is water. When it rains heavily, there will be a tidal lock. Tidal lock simply means the storm water can't discharge into the discharging point of the Atlantic or the lagoon. So it will be held back for maybe 2-3 hours. That's when you experience flash flooding. And we can calmly say to Lagosians, within 2-3 hours, when the water level is down, this will recede, and then you can have your life back.
Well, we can only, hope that we're able to disseminate this as much as possible. Quickly to the environmental activities in Lagos. Yes. Once upon a time, we had bins, recycled bins in buses, and then we also had them at the bus stops. And then there were ways in which the bus stops were cleaned and everything. Is that something to expect? Because people still throw trash out, particularly from buses.
Ayo, when I said we have a people badly behaved culture kind of thing, that's what I'm trying to talk about. It's not nice for you to be in a bus, for instance, and you finish with your waste and you choose to throw it out. You can put it in your bag and you take it home and you trash it at home. But now we are engaging the different stakeholders. I mentioned NURTW and the Ministry of Transport.
Okay.
We are engaging that we have to bring this and put them in the buses. We also need to ramp up capacity with respect to the production of the dino bins that you see on the bus around the bus stops.
Okay.
But it's not enough for them to be put there. Let people put them to use.
Okay. I guess that's part of the advocacy that you're talking about, and I'm suspecting that along the line, somewhere we're going to find an enforcement in the mix. But don't answer that yet. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Tokunbo Wahab is the Lagos State Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources. We didn't even touch on any of the water resources responsibilities.
I thought you were going to ask me that question.
We'll come back again. We'll come back to that.
With this traffic.
we definitely come back now. We have another guest.
Just for a minute.
We'll come to it. We'll come to it. I promise you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.